We're live now.
We're live soon, so usually there's like a bit of testing and stuff that we do, but yeah, man. I was gonna say thanks for coming over. There was a cool little party over the weekend and stuff.
It was cool.
You might have missed it, folks. No film this time. No video. Normally, like I'll not film, but like I'll take a photo, like a selfie of like the party. I forgot.
Next time.
It was too busy having fun.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, so we're gonna go live in 3, 2, 1. And we're back, folks. So I'm Mark. Thanks for joining us. This is another Oz DeFi Association podcast along with the Data Science and AI Association of Australia. It's even better this time because DSAI, we've actually got the founder here, Paul Conyngham. Paul, welcome.
Cheers for having me, Mike. Great to be here.
Absolutely. And look, we have had a lot of excited guests knowing that we're doing more in the AI space. So the people that have been watching, we've had comments like, thank you for doing that ChatGPT stuff. Or even at our meetups, we talk about it because AI is really strong in our space, like it is in many industries. But let's go back to the start. Like you founded DSAI along with a few others. Can you give us a bit of an overview about your journey in the world of data? Like when did you start and how did it lead up to the things that you're doing now?
I'm glad you asked, Mark. I'm going to give you the very long-winded version.
Please, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, sure. I've been doing AI since 2009, and primarily research-based.
Oh, right.
So I was doing like algorithm design from fundamentals, and got to around 2014 and started hearing this title of data scientist being banded around. So I was like, for the first time ever,
Wow.
you could make money with this. There were still quants and stuff back then, as I'm sure you are aware.
Yep.
But outside of the financial industry and maybe the defense sector, you could actually start making money out of this field. So
was it sexy then, or was it a few years later that data science became sexy?
It wasn't sexy yet.
Okay.
The term like the most sexiest job of the 2010s or whatever it was hadn't been titled yet.
Okay.
It was 2016ish, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I thought, okay, I want to pivot my career into that. Like, I'm tired of just doing the experimental side of things. So went and approached a whole bunch of people to do my master's degree with them, and they had never heard of the algorithms that I had worked on, which was a echo state network. It's a type of neural network architecture.
Okay.
So I thought, screw this. I'm just going to teach myself.
Fantastic.
So back then, decided to take on Andrew Ng's. Andrew Ng, his course.
Yeah, nice.
And to pick up some more fundamental, to essentially cover the bases of stuff that I hadn't learned already.
Yeah.
But to kind of fast forward more to the community side of things.
Please, yeah.
So I was doing pretty good through self-learning, managed to get my first job working for startups, actually. So I recommend that to anyone else listening to this. Like if you are looking to get started in this field, build up a base course skill set, and then potentially work for some startups for free initially, and then use that to bootstrap your experience to get to your first paying job.
It's great.
So did that, but around 2017, to even round up my skills even further, I'd been reading the autobiography of Benjamin Franklin.
Okay, left field. Explain.
So he's, for anyone who's listening, is one of the founding fathers of the United States of America. A bit of an eccentric character.
Yep.
But he wrote an autobiography, and one of the things I realized in his book is that wherever he went around, like in America and then later to France and stuff, he would start these little societies wherever he went.
Oh, interesting.
I'm like, very interesting.
Wow.
So I decided, like, ironically, on the 14th on Valentine's Day 2017.
Wow. Okay. Here we go. Okay.
To start the Sydney Machine Learning Meetup group.
Oh, okay. Check out the link here.
And ran that was very successful. There was a lot of interest back then. Deep learning was just kicking off as a thing. And around sort of towards the end of 2018, I thought, like, let's take this to the next level.
Yeah.
And myself and a bunch of other guys like myself, some other community organizers at the time, Jackie Ko, who you're familiar with,
Yep.
And others, Shuning, who's now in China. We got together and decided to build a society and take it to the next level.
Wow.
And that's kind of the genesis of how very short version of how it all got started.
You guys had that one of those first. I don't know if it was the first one at Amazon where it was like 200 plus people and much more in standing room only. Was that the first DSAI event or one of the first?
Yeah, so we maxed out the venue. It was we've been doing it for it's not to brag, but I'm totally going to brag.
No, please brag. That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, we maxed them out for ages, and we've been doing it this year as well.
One of the most recent ones that you did with DSAI is it was over at Microsoft Reactor, and it was like 350 plus people signed up, but they had to split it across different rooms because not everyone could fit in that one room. So
so we did that.
So more of that, and we got involved and stuff, I guess, because Jackie, we knew, shout outs to Jackie and shout outs to Shuning. We got involved connecting with Jackie, and he told us about the association. I was working at the ASX then and had come to that first event where it's like, oh my gosh, what is this? Because there's 200 people in a room. I'd been used to data science meetups in London and in Melbourne that were much smaller, right? But I was impressed with, what you guys had pulled together. And then when it was the chance for us to get involved, myself and Arturo, COVID hit. And, to your point during then, like Zoom meetings after Zoom meetings, everyone was tired of Zoom meetings and stuff.
100%.
And we're very lucky to get back started again with Michael Wang and the Creditor Watch folks bringing us back up. So shout outs to Michael. But, what's it been like now that it's been reinvigorated for the last couple of months? How have you felt about, the DSAI things? Is it you're seeing it in a lot of the work, and we'll get into that. But yeah, just with DSAI just coming back to life, what are your thoughts on that?
It's been a whirlwind, to be honest. It's been non-stop from the start of the year, even end of last year, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm sure you've felt it yourself between running the Web3 world and then jumping into this world as well.
It's a lot of crossover because it's all under emerging tech, which is why we've got this podcast. But it's been pretty amazing to be part of it and just see this thing grow again, and just all of this interest. It's like I don't know, a whirlwind is a good way to describe it. It feels like a dream as well at times, but
it does. It's the lack of sleep.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So people like Paul get it, right? But DSAI has been instrumental in the Australian tech scene. Can you share with us some of the, what you would say, like, I guess, major milestones and achievements the association's accomplished since its inception?
Major milestones have included, so just taking all the way back, we've always run those large events you were referring to.
Yep.
So I think we're like probably the only one that achieves that sort of level of attendance. But in addition to that, I think we're the only group to have ever run an event in collaboration with Tesla, and that was just after we got going. And sort of taking it off from there, we were also one of the only organizations that were able to run cohort-based learning through COVID.
Okay.
So that's kind of important because it kept us going. And it was also hard to motivate people in like a remote fashion. Very hard. I'm sure all the teachers can relate to that. But more importantly, from all that activity, the sort of biggest achievements I get out of it is when I encounter sort of people that have gone to our events on the street or whatever, and they say, "Hey, Paul," or "Hey, Mark," or whatever it is. I got a job from that connection I made at your event, and I honestly, because it's such a blur, I don't even know if I remember the event. But just to know that we're having that impact is, it's probably one of the main reasons I do this.
It's almost like a mini celebrity feeling, but like I'm not in this to try to be a celebrity, and neither are you. We're trying to just have impact and move the space forward. But it's such this nice feeling when it's like someone that you're like, how do I remember you? Oh, that's right, it's from an event, but you don't know which event. But they say something good like that. Yeah,
it's the impact that we're actually having in terms of that. And I've had many experiences like that. I'm so glad we've been able to, I guess, pick the Sydney community up just a little bit, contribute a little bit. Yeah.
And you're still running Sydney Machine Learning. That's still a thing that's going on, right?
Yeah, so that's... I try to keep like hardcore, more like mathematical type discussions for Sydney Machine Learning. And DSAI is more like open to anyone who wants to learn about get started in the field or whatever.
That's beautiful, man. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we've been able to take on and do in Oz DeFi has been from learning how you guys have built communities before. So we've stood on the shoulders of giants. We're glad to be part of the data science group together, and we're both killing it, you know. So this is getting into the business side of things, Paul. As we see businesses starting to embrace or looking at embracing AI technologies, do you have any tips for when it comes to how they get started or how they should go about researching this space?
Yeah, I mean, a good way to get started in any field is to get some familiarity with the fundamentals, and some fundamentals in terms of like, you need to realize that AI is not a silver bullet.
Oh no!
Oh!
Damn it! People thought anyway.
But it's a capability.
Mm-hmm.
It has a set of capabilities it can do, and then once you know what those capabilities are, then you can know where to apply it. But of course, any company is a series of processes. Any company, as you know, is a system.
Of course.
You take inputs, for example, from your clients. You manipulate that, and you produce some outputs, whatever those outputs might be. If you know the capabilities, then you can apply it to parts of the business throughout, essentially, process management.
Absolutely, I think fundamentals is a real key thing that you mentioned there, and there's a lot of these like myths that are going out there, and people maybe don't even want to get started because they're just like, oh no, we're banned from using any GPT stuff because IT said it's bad. Not that we've heard that too much, but I mean, what do you kind of say to that when people are hesitant for getting started because they've read something that's in the headlines or they're being told, and those people are being informed by headline stuff rather than looking below at the real truth of the matter?
That's a really good question. There's two major things that I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
The first is the security thing, which you just brought up, which is, but let me just backtrack a little bit. I think that to both of those points, lots of people obviously also don't want to see the technology thrive. So it's kind of like trying to shoot it down. So that's the first thing I'd say. Mm-hmm. I'd say the hype is very much justified around the technology. The capabilities it can give you or your business or whatever you're trying to achieve are like superhuman, to be honest. Like superhuman vision, superhuman hearing, even superhuman thinking these days.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's the first thing. I think people are trying to bag it, essentially, throw it under the bus. With these 2 points. The first is security. You can very much address the security issues as you are aware of. If you are looking to go down the road of the GPT thing, because that's just one subset of machine learning, but if you're looking into GPT right now, you can run your own private version of GPT on Azure, if that's something you want to do. I'm not associated with Azure in any way, but I'm just that they are the only guys that can do that at the moment. Likewise with Google, you can run your own thing with Google. And then going beyond that, you can even run your own models locally on your infrastructure at your company. So that means that the data doesn't leave a company, addressing the security thing at the very root of the So the security issue is not really a problem. The other issue that I'm seeing people like to bring up to bag and throw this thing under the bus is this idea of hallucination.
Inaccuracies
and stuff. And to that I say, if you have any staff right now, like if you are lucky enough to be in a position where you have employees, have you ever had an employee tell you something that's not true?
Absolutely, all the time. There's garbage from humans too.
You can, at least with this, we can even measure it, and control it. And there's steps you can take to even control that part of this. There are multiple packages and frameworks you can wrap the models around to make them more accurate.
And on the accuracy thing, the thing that we're seeing is that when people have these private models and the data that they've got is just their data that's being trained, then it reduces it, and depending on how they prompt things, of course, it's reduced the hallucinations that are out there. So
Yeah.
there are combat tactics.
There's multiple strategies.
Absolutely.
You can layer the strategies. There's like you said, the prompt engineering.
Yep.
There's manipulating the model itself.
Yep.
There's controlling the inputs and the outputs. And on top of that, there's like different safety package layers that you can add from Microsoft and from others that can control the outputs. And can you do that to a staff member?
No. I was going to say,
No.
there's a big difference there. And the staff members, unfortunately, 9 to 5 or whatever it is, and that people have to go to sleep. But you've got this thing that just takes the commands and you can control. It's much more controllable. So it's really interesting that you can get and tweak and hone in on more of a perfect response. It's just like driverless cars and stuff. Like eventually we'll probably get there. Obviously, they'll call out the accidents that happen, but they're far fewer than human-led accidents.
Correct.
Right?
Exactly.
So
That's the best analogy. The baseline will be lower with machine learning.
I think it's a numbers game, but there's still that compelling thing in people like, I don't know if I can trust it. But I think over time, that's just going to go away. Like people were worried about the cloud, remember, before? Like that was hesitancy to move data away from file storage on-premise to moving into the cloud was something that took time to overcome. Now it looks silly, you know?
Yeah, I guess it'll take time for people to build trust, but I mean, you've already said a few good arguments. One is like it's a numbers thing, and I think with the current systems already, we can have less errors than humans are prone to, like to your self-driving example. And the other is also, I just think it's there's a lot of attack just to throw the technology under the bus.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily warranted based on the idea that, you know, employees make more mistakes than you realize.
I think it's inevitable, so you might as well get on the side of things. Obviously, we've got to tackle the AI ethics, and there's the consultation paper on responsible AI. But as long as we've taken care of all of that, like I think you might as well get on the bandwagon, because if we're heading there, you want to be part of the group that's learned how to use the phone before it becomes mainstream and you're behind, right?
Yes, first mover advantage for sure. Like, don't fool yourself. If you're not using this technology, your competitors will be.
There you go, folks. Something to watch out for there.
True.
All right, so let's get to the next question, and this is more on the application in industry. So the growth of AI and data science, it's definitely got massive implications for a variety of sectors, and we're seeing that. But can you elaborate on some potential applications that you foresee?
Yeah, sure. I will answer it indirectly, and then I'll answer it directly. So
Good.
The indirect part is, as you are very well aware, any new technology, even though this technology is not really new, but let's if we're focusing on the GPT, LLM side, large language models side of things, any new technology takes a while to adopt. It's the whole crossing the chasm thing.
Yep.
You know, early adopters, bell curve. But so let's say 2 years. But even with the 2 years early adopters thing, a lot of what I'm seeing at the moment is around people, the initial application of this technology is in improving search within their company. So using GPT to search across their own internal documents and answer questions internally. If you're able to do that, build a repository of knowledge that you can query for any question based on previous projects that you've done in the past, think about what an advantage just that gives you.
Yeah, it's huge. The knowledge base that companies have, like doing stuff with that, we're definitely seeing that first of all. What else are you seeing?
The next major thing, and this is going to unfold over, say, 2 to 5 years, is it's called agents, but I feel hesitant to use that because it excludes a lot of the audience. Okay. Let's rather call it digital assistance.
Good name.
Or process optimization 2.0. So all companies, like we talked about earlier, have step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 to produce some service or good. At every one of these points, you can inject GPT to work as a reasoning engine to make that little process go faster. And this is the next major wave of things I'm seeing unfolding. It's actually, I would almost say it's its own separate thing.
Yeah.
But it's just as big. as
I would say that I have to agree there. Like the first thing that we saw, even what we were doing, it was almost like a search fund. Even though this is not Google search, don't just trust the output that's coming out of these models, folks, unless you've trained it and honed it and you've learned how that you can have these private GPT models that are less likely to hallucinate. But just even with the public ones, just be very careful with anything there. But we were using it as a search function. And then we started seeing, to the second point, hang on, we could use this to improve, to critique what we're doing and stuff. Like if you don't have, especially startups, you don't have a chief marketing officer and you're all quasi acting as that, run your decisions through the GPT model that you've trained to be this person that knows about your business. You highlighted custom instructions, one of those GPT things that are out there if you're using ChatGPT, but you would normally probably just like in your own private GPTs, you'd already have those pre-inputs and stuff. Having that trained on the things that you're doing, the type of work that you're doing, I think has been amazing for us. And we're certainly seeing gains with like customers trying to do that. But yeah, I think those two are like really great. What are some of the things that you foresee? Because it sounds like people are working on the agent stuff like now.
Yeah, they are. And before we go to the future, so search and agents is what I'm seeing people trying to deploy into incumbents at the moment. So if you have an existing company, another trend that I'm seeing that's really cool is if you are a pre-existing AI company and you have a product to sell, now is the time. Like people are very interested in the technology.
Yeah.
And if you are lucky enough to have a pre-existing AI product to sell or considering selling a product, it's a very good time to be doing that. But yeah, going into the future, I foresee the whole digital agent trend, digital assistant trend growing. I think in the future we're all going to have several of these things working for us and just enhancing our day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
Suffices to say that, like, we may. This is like going off into the distance.
Of course. Go.
We may have to become comfortable with not being the most intelligent person in the room and just consulting your panel of AI experts to do tasks. But I think that's an incredible future. The reason I think that is like even this year, I feel like I've been the most empowered I've ever been.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, like you sit down with to do some work. You sit down with your bespoke AI tools of choice, whether that's ChatGPT. You were talking earlier before we started this that you're using some AI tools to edit your videos. We weren't able to be as productive as we are now, like even last year. So
true.
And I love it. It's almost like you just add an extra part to your brain, almost like to be able to do extra things.
Do you feel like Neo, like out of the Matrix?
A little bit actually. It's a good thing. Like I know kung fu.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably a good analogy.
We're not plugging in just yet.
Not yet, no.
Maybe soon. I'm a bit more hesitant about the Neuralink and getting my brain chipped, but who knows? But you're right. Like I think back before. What would we call it? Like we have BC and AD. We've got this like pre-GPT period.
I agree.
Like I can't imagine going like all the things that we're doing here and all the work that we're doing. I can't imagine doing that stuff without GPT. Like, can you?
We are living through a pivotal time, and I think our ancestors will look, our forebears will look back on us, and like how could they live like that? But like I don't know. It's. My developers are saying they're seeing a 5x increase in their productivity. I can attest to that myself. I can build things in a day that would usually have taken me 5 days.
Wow.
And to anyone that says that it's not good at coding, to them I say, you don't really know how to prompt the thing.
There you go.
That's what I have to say.
The gauntlet's been thrown down, folks, because I think you're absolutely right. Like if you get a bad piece of output, it's like, well, what's the context that you've given it and how have you asked the questions? How specific have you been? How have you led it down the pathway to giving you the right kind of answer that you want?
How many ChatGPT tabs do you have open?
Yeah, which is a good test as well. And then you mentioned some of the, whether it's some of the other models out there, we know people that are using Claude and VPNing in to have that because it's on the US and UK, so obviously VPN for that. And just some of the other models like Llama 2, we know people testing Llama 2. I don't know if you've been testing some of these other tools out there, but
yeah, for sure.
There's so much out there. So it's really good. So great to see that the future there. Now let's get back over to DSAI, and it's been crucial in bridging this gap between emerging tech and the broader Australian community. What kind of things are you most excited about for DSAI in the pipeline, and how do you aim to continue this education and advocacy work?
Yeah, great question. Prior to COVID, we were looking to take DSAI to Melbourne and Brisbane.
That's right, yeah.
And that's still on the cards. We're going to be doing that towards the end of this year. Running some events in Melbourne and Brisbane. So look out for that. Taking this forward, we're going to be doing more podcasts like what we're recording right now.
Yep.
And in addition, we are working on a DSAI or Australian AI Awards ceremony, looking to recognize anyone that's doing significant work in this field. And there's a lot of really good stuff. Obviously, with the blooming of AI this year, there's a lot of good stuff being done.
I think those are just some really great events, and there's more that we've got in the pipeline. So it's really great to see what the future holds. It's pretty bright by the sounds of it.
Yeah, it's good.
So on that note, Paul, you're a leading figure in the Australian tech community. I'd love to hear, and we ask always this for any guest, not just AI, blockchain, whoever, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on community, because it sounds like it really runs through your blood there. But what does community mean to you, and how has it shaped your work and the direction of DSAI?
Yeah, sure. From when I started studying machine learning all the way through to now, even with the volunteer work that I do outside of the AI community even.
Wait, you do more outside of this as well?
Yeah, I'm a volunteer firefighter, and in the past I've been a surf lifesaver as well.
Brilliant.
But for me, community means it's never about you or the thing that you're trying to sell. Like, let's say you're a startup and you're trying to sell a product. It's not about the product. It's not about you. It's about what you can do for the community. That's what community means to me. How can I be of service to the community? I feel that yourself and myself, we've actually made a huge contribution to the Sydney community and Australia at large as well. And hope to do more of that in the future.
I love to hear that, because I think I don't know about you, but I feel like every time we do something, we achieve a new milestone. It feels like there's here's this new mountain to climb in a good way, because we both embrace the challenge. It's funny because a lot of people, I think, would not even think about, for their companies or just individually, getting involved in volunteering or starting a community, because they're like, well, what's in it for me? But if you change your mindset,
100%.
You flip it around completely, like, what can I do for them? Like, over time, maybe you might not have been a community person, but you start to get this good feeling, and things start to come back. If you do good for the community, even if you do, I don't know, how we measure it, 100 points of good for the community, and the first thing you get back is 10 points good for yourself. Over time, that builds up, and you've now got this massive, even if it's just a marketing strategy that people have, just get involved in community, because it's far better that you do it as part of a bigger group with bigger reach than trying to be this little minnow that's trying to do its own marketing and no one's ever heard of it.
Agreed.
Be part of a bigger group than yourself. That's why I got involved with you guys and learned to start my own thing. So, mate, spot on there with the messaging. How can people get in touch with you? What's the best ways if they want to learn more about this? And we definitely have to have you back on, but how do you get people to best reach out?
Sure. If you want to get involved in DSAI, my email is paul@dsai.org.au. Yeah.
And then LinkedIn as well. So we'll put that in the show notes. And I think you were just saying you before in the break, you're trying to get back on Twitter.
Yeah, I've been trying to get back again. I sort of stopped doing the Twitter thing during COVID. It got pretty heated during just stayed away from it. But it's a great resource for staying on top of machine learning as well as Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of people.
Twitter ML.
Yes, yeah, that's it. There's the crypto Twitter side of things, and then there's the other crazy sides of Twitter. But We'll put all those links in the show notes. But for now, Paul Conyngham, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mark. Cheers, man.